Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Maverick News Channel. Again, I apologize for the delayed start tonight. Just another little technical glitch. We've had some computer updates going on, and it is throwing some monkey wrenches into things, but well worth the wait because we have the most up-to-the-minute information on the Montreal shooter. In fact, we have, and I'll bring it to you right now so that we get it on as quickly as we can. This is a photo of the alleged shooter, Seth Hatfield. And tonight we'll be digging into the manifesto that purportedly was left in a hotel room and also distributed to some media outlets. We'll tell you what was in it, and we'll tell you, well, we'll share enough of the information that I think you might be able to make your own assessment on this rather than relying on one kind of media or another, both of which tonight I will suggest to you are not fully disclosing what is in that manifesto. And we'll also be going to the phones. Ian, who was on the scene, has been on the scene, checking on things, will be joining us by phone. And you can too, if you'd like to weigh in on this conversation. We'll also touch on some of today's other top news stories when we come back on the other side of this.
We are the Mavericks. Welcome to the Matrix, baby. Hope you like the view. We are the Mavericks. The world is watching. We are the Mavericks.
So tonight, following up on the horrific shooting in Montreal yesterday. Some saying this was committed by an anti-Semitic, misogynistic, I would say, depending on the media outlet you're watching, some will tell you he was what would be the right phrasing for this? An anti-Semitic communist. Or some will tell you that he was, what would be the other description on this? On the other side, sort of a progressive, woke incel. When you get into the manifesto that was left behind, the reality is he's kind of mixed up, crazy guy with varying degrees of different kinds of ideologies kind of mishmashed together. And it's disturbing stuff at the end of the day. Now, I know Ian has been digging into the manifesto, as I have as well, a little bit, and we'll be sharing some of our insight into that tonight. I have some of the key parts of that. And while some people are suggesting, or some media outlets saying they've got the whole story and they're hiding the story from you, I'm going to suggest to you that I don't think anybody is really telling you the whole darn story tonight. So let me just see if we can get things up on the system here. And there we go. And I think we've got our first caller in tonight. Hang on a second here. Let me get you up on the screen and feeding into the system. Okay. I think we've got it. Oh, I better do this. All right. All right, sir. Welcome back. Tell everybody who you are, just in case people don't know.
Well, it's your good old friend from Montreal, Ian, aka Dragon, who was on the scene yesterday, and well, we got some update for you tonight.
Okay, so you were on the scene yesterday,
Yep.
and you saw what was going on as police blocked off a huge area around the crime scene. How many blocks would you say they had cordoned off there yesterday? In about 5 or 6 or maybe 7 blocks in the perimeter around the business.
Yep.
It was a mixed residential and business area where this happened.
Yeah, well, Descaries Street is very a industrial kind of place, or where there's a lot of business and college, right? So, but beneath that street, you have a lot of residents and all that. So, yeah, you have basically about 5 blocks square that was blocked, basically, from the intervention that was needed yesterday.
Right. So tonight, as we've checked in with police, and you and I were speaking prior to the broadcast, it looks like police have now released most of the area. There's still some police present in the vicinity and at the actual crime scene. And some of those areas, of course, are still secured as the investigation is ongoing. But for the most part, the area is slowly returning to normal, and the police lines are down. The roads that were blockaded are now open to traffic again. What's the mood like there in Montreal tonight? How are people feeling?
I think the people are shook to a certain degree. There's a lot of grievance, I think, on social media from what I've seen on X or other social media in general. People are kind of shocked because, well, shocked and at the same time not quite shocked, because they knew something would happen at some point. I mean, the tension was kind of palpable, if you will, to a certain degree, with all what we can see in social media and so on. So I think it wasn't far-fetched to say that it could happen at any time. It was just a question of when. But people now are kind of more, say, under they're more paranoid. Not paranoid, it's a wrong word. They're probably more trying to keep their person safe, if you catch my drift.
Yeah, people are fearful. They're shaken up.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a shock for the entire
There's some
community.
anxiety and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So tonight, as I indicated, we have the first photo that we've obtained here of Seth Hatfield, the alleged shooter. I'm going to put it up on the screen here for people to see, and then we'll. There. Okay, so he's in the system with you. So this will continue to work, and people will be able to hear you. So this, I guess, is the guy who was killed at the scene, the alleged shooter. And so, what do we know about this guy tonight? Well, he's the author of this manifesto, this 104-page manifesto that was written and was left in a hotel room, I guess, and also distributed to some media outlets. And that's how some researchers and activists who look into far-right extremism, they obtained copies of this in addition to media, because their media was, I guess some of it got shared. There's a lot of gray area surrounding how different media outlets and others have obtained this so-called manifesto. Some journalists are saying they have access to the entire 104-page document. I have a copy of a good portion of it myself,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you've been digging into it as well. And what's your first assessment of the manifesto, Ian?
Well, I've heard a lot on social media about, say, radicalism against Zionism and all those kind of thing, which actually is unfactual. From what I see, there's a lot of resentments toward misogynistic views. He's probably like, basically, he will. I can portray the guy as a woman hater. Sorry to say, but he was. For the first 25 page that I've already uncovered, and I have a lot to uncover still. It's speaking a lot about gamification or gamification, which is basically the way that women use their attractive or their seducing ability to get higher in hierarchy and so on. So it's an attack also on bourgeoisie and liberalism, capitalism in a nutshell. So there's a lot of that, but pretty much not much about Zionism and that kind of thing. He probably in the first 10 page probably going to say something about that, like probably for I would say it's a 0.5 portion of what the manifesto is. So basically, it has nothing to do with Zionism or with the rest of the of what is akin to war and those kind of things. So we need to be careful with what other media says sometimes, and we need to look.
So when you're
it
saying
up
that,
for
you're
ourselves.
just to kind of just put it all on the table, you're making reference to what Rebel News and their focus, the focus of their analysis of this and their
Mhm.
review of the whole thing, because I've seen that they're like going hard after the this guy's an anti-Semitic communist. That's their whole take on it, and then they're saying the mainstream media is lying to you because they're saying this guy is an incel, and so people are out there left saying, well, which is it? Is it this or is it that? And I'm kind of with you. I mean, my assessment of this after going through it is that there's mention of I would say anti-Semitism. There's anti-Semitic language in
Agree.
it, but it doesn't dominate this. It's buried fairly
That's
deep
it.
into it, and it doesn't permeate through the whole thing.
That's it. It's mostly speaking about how women use their attractiveness, if I can put it this way, to obtain power in the world, basically, or that kind of thing. If you look into gamifying, basically, it also has a lot to portray with, or it's akin to overmaxing, if you know what it is. Well, you do know because we have already, well, you have spoke about clavicular, which is the overmaxing expert of all time, sort of thing. So, yeah, to give you an idea, he's basically kind of acting against that and speaking against that in his manifesto.
Right. So what we know about this guy is this alleged shooter. He's from Lethbridge, Alberta. It's Seth Scott Hatfield, born in 2001, 25 years old. He was killed by police yesterday during the confrontation at the scene, which actually was the headquarters for Pornhub, which is something that is not being widely reported, but I think it's really significant. It ties in directly with exactly what he's writing about in his
Yeah,
manifesto.
exactly.
It's connected to the mindset here. No question, this was a big part of the motivation. I'd say it was a larger part of the motivation than anti-Semitism per se. And we can talk a little bit more about that as well tonight. But this guy came all the way from Lethbridge, Alberta. And, I'm saying he did it, but allegedly did this. And graduated.
Well, I'll open actually a question on the chat. 1272B51 reminds us of what happened in Polytechnique, which, if my memory is correct, was in 1989. So yeah, that's pretty much it. December 1989.
Yeah, that one. I mean, I remember when that happened, fairly vividly. That one had a, I hate to say it this way, but it had a different feel to it. The
Pretty different.
Yeah, this is from the manifesto left, from the way all this went down. This kind of meshes a lot of different political ideologies, societal issues, socioeconomic things.
Because he speaks a lot about liberalism and capitalism in his manifesto also.
Yeah. So there's a lot of this in it, and social, cultural issues. This
Westernization, those kind of thing also. Yeah.
This is kind of a newer. It's a hybrid set of issues that seem to be driving this. It's very. When I say a hybrid, it's blending things in the very same way that the politics in today on the populist side is blending things. It's hard to tell the difference between the left and the right and the communists and the fascists, because they're all blending together. It's like that political horseshoe, and it's come around and it's kind of meeting right here. And there's a lot of that in play with with this particular crime and this tragedy, in my opinion.
Me too. Actually, on my assessment, it's so much broader of an attack on the Western liberal sides of things and capitalism, which attach with the misogynistic part, right? So it's all of that kind of blend together. And I would say that on my own assessment of what I'm reading and seeing from the guy is that, okay, he was probably intelligent enough to be like in university. I mean, look, he probably have a sociological background to a certain degree to be able to extract all those, all what he's been giving into his manifesto. But the thing is that he has been probably too much, say, brainwashed by what was going on each side. And I think he has suffered to a certain degree of a sort of, this cognitive dissonance to a certain degree. So, yeah. And that's what brought, like, it's basically what I've been saying for a month now. That cognitive dissonance can create radicalism. And that's what we have probably happened yesterday.
Okay, now I know that my audio is all messed up here too. This computer has gone haywire over the last few days, and it just keeps resetting everything and then not letting things set properly. We had massive audio issues yesterday. So let me take a break. I'm going to try to fix this, come back on the other side. Don't go away.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. blast, blast, blast. Blah 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 blah.
Blah blah blah.
Maverick News. No blah, blah, blah.
Okay, can you hear me okay, Ian?
Yep.
Okay. Let's just check it over here. I hope the audio is better. Just checking. It is better. Okay, I got it fixed. Oh my goodness. If it's not one thing, it's another.
I know that's life, my friend.
How profound. Yeah, so this guy, this Seth Hatfield, and I see people like that new promo transition thingy that I put together there.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm thinking we need t-shirts. So I think maybe we'll do that. Who wants a blah 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 t-shirt? I do. Anyway, we back to the serious side of things here tonight, because this is it's a terrible story. I'll tell you that. Yeah. So this guy came all the way from Lethbridge, Alberta. I guess he was a student out there. And
yes, from Lethbridge University, if my memory is correct, or college. I got to check it out, but yeah.
Yeah, and not very much online.
University.
Yes, which some media outlets are saying that left-wing, Lethbridge University. So,
just from what I got, actually, I did dig a little bit deeper, actually, earlier today. He studied actually into philosophy and journalism, mind you.
Mhm.
So,
yeah, communications, yeah. Yeah, and his content in there blending incel ideology with, it's bringing in these misogynistic views, portraying men as an oppressed class, sort of a new take on Marxism or
bourgeoisie.
oppressive. Yeah, that's right. Those concepts, but applied in this way to misogynistic views, the way he views feminism, liberalism, capitalism. And there's a lot of anti-pornography rhetoric. And he blames sites like Pornhub for male suffering, along with his anti-capitalist and Marxist elements. And he's calling in this manifesto for an armed revolution to destroy liberalism and capitalism. And he has views on men's hypergamy, which is like marrying up because you don't feel like you're worth very much. as a man,
Hmm.
and so he's
Actually,
blaming
basically,
with
one of one of his take, if I may, basically it was returning back because back in the, I think it was in the industrial revolution, basically on the class echelon, if you will, women were more like at home where men were working. So it was more of a patriarchal kind of society since long time ago, right?
Mhm.
But then he's kind of switching that on its head, basically, saying that now what we have in society is that women are so able and powerful, if you will, that we are now becoming the women back of yesterday when women were at home doing sandwiches. Sorry for the expression, but that's basically what he's saying. So that is a reverse of that bourgeoisie kind of matriarchal slash patriarchal society that we used to have. So that's my sociological aspect of it, I think, and that's my take of what he's saying.
So yeah,
So
I pulled some key quotes from the manifesto, but before we kind of get into those, you mentioned Rebel News, and they got a lot of traction overnight because they got a hold of the manifesto, a lot which other media outlets have had as well. They're the only ones that I know of that have published much in the way of content from it, but
mhm.
the way that they handled it, um, I don't know. You can. Ezra Levant posted online saying the mainstream media everything they say is they're all to lie about everything to you, and he's saying that they have been holding a lot of information back on purpose. That police were giving this manifesto to select media outlets who are only releasing small portions of it, and it's a 104-page document suggesting, of course, that by Rebel News posting this document online, that they're telling everyone the whole truth, and that they're leaving people with the impression that they've released the full document. But they, as far as I've seen, they haven't. Now because what I saw on their website was only 34 pages out of the 104-page document. So
Yeah,
that's kind of like the pot calling the kettle black if you want to play that game. I know that mainstream media outlets largely will not release in full a document like this because by doing that, they're really doing what the criminal, the shooter, the perpetrator of the crime wants. They really, and in this case, it was sent directly from where we're told that the shooter sent this manifesto directly to select media outlets to give it to them before the crime was committed. It was sent off to them. And obviously
hmm,
doing that because that person wants that information public and put out there. And generally, that's why the stuff isn't published in full, because by doing that, now you're platforming this person with radical, violent ideas, and they want those ideas to spread to the general public, and they want people to rise up and commit acts of violence and crime. So
that's it. You don't want to have a copycat, first of all. Second of all, when you don't say everything on the first moment, it's because you don't want to intervene into the, or basically you don't want to make the investigation go awry.
mhm.
So there's that you got to take in count.
But the rules seem to be kind of going out the window, because of social
Hmm.
media and the competition out there for clicks and likes. And there's so much content available in the world now that just to survive, to get the eyeballs that you need to make your media channel, your YouTube channel, your whatever it is, the rules are all being kind of just trampled on, ignored largely when it comes to journalism. That's why I've said for a long time, real journalism is kind of dead. The standards have gone right out the window. But it's a little disingenuous, I think, for Rebel News to be sitting there saying that they're telling you everything, and the other guys are lying to you about everything, because mainstream media only releasing select snippets from it, but they didn't release the whole document either. They released 34 pages out of 104. And then what you're getting over there is you're getting, as they say, the other side of the story, or I should say, maybe more accurately, their take on the story, their version of the story. You're getting a story, and their focus is largely, like, and intensely hyper focused on anti-Semitic communism. That's the lens through which they are viewing this crime. That's the lens through which they are analyzing the manifesto, and they are only releasing 34 out of the 104 pages on their website because they're also censoring the rest of it. So you've got about 1/3 of it, 2/3 still being hidden in the dark, whether we ever actually get to see it. And I don't really care to. I don't really want to. I don't really think it helps. It probably won't help us as a society to have people reading that online in the way that it was written. I think, though, that being said, there probably is a lot of value in looking at the crime and having, some people in a very responsible way looking at the content of that document that was strangely written, and
Mhm.
then trying to understand what it was that triggered this person to do what they've done, so that we can try to find ways to help people and prevent these things from happening in the future. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that? What were your views on the ethics surrounding the release or not releasing this kind of content to the public and making it something that's being platformed on social media?
Now, if we do actually present the papers entirely as educational content, if you will, to preserve mind sanity, actually, and tell people, look, this is how people get from one bad day to another, if you catch my drift. That's basically, I think, what we should do, or that people should go read it with the open mind that most of the information that are there are sort of blend into a how can I put that? It's a web of information that actually doesn't always tie together. So basically, this person was conflicting problem altogether.
So I shouldn't be, and I don't want to be overly critical of their decision over there to put the document online for people to download it. The 34 pages. Their argument has been this is a legitimate, bona fide news story of high public interest, so we're sharing this information. But it's kind of like taking, well, I don't know. Then it's like, how much information do people really want to have? Do I want to be the publisher of something that a shooter, someone who's perpetrated a mass shooting or an attempted mass shooting, somebody who just killed a police officer, committed an act of violence that also resulted in the death of a civilian? Do I want to be the guy who publishes that, makes it available to the public? They got a lot of clicks and a lot of views and a lot of traffic on their website because of this. But at what
No, I'm
cost to
debating on that
society?
too, because I mean, it's not for everyone, I would say, to read either, because any person who doesn't have a background in, say, sociology or anthropology, psychology, or those kind of thing, and didn't read in what is those subject, well, they're gonna just probably lose themselves in their own validation of certain problems that they see there, and probably kind of extrapolate from their grievance, if you catch my drift. So that's probably also something that we need to be careful with, and that people that will go read it for themselves should be aware that it's not there's nothing there that is formally all good or all bad or all truth. So they shouldn't take that as a propeller of their own ideas at all, because this is radicalization 101.
So in the opening, the preamble opening, and I have it up on the screen here as a graphic. This Seth Hatfield writes, I have seen it fit to produce and publish a concise and scientifically supported account of just what this gloomy and pervasive male loneliness actually is, how it came to be, and what should be done about it henceforth. So that's how it begins. That's his focus. It doesn't start with anti-Semitism. There's some in there, but not really the main focus of this pseudo intellectual manifesto.
Oh, you said the right word, pseudo. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then at the end, in the beginning, this is at the end, and he writes, "Be unflinching, go forth and kill them all." Obviously, calling for violence here, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sharing that tonight. I'm wrestling with if I should even have put that up, but it's out there in other media, so it's already being distributed, and that, for me, creates multiple layers of public interest, and I think it warrants discussion as well. And then on male loneliness and porn, he writes, for the average man, the closest thing to the intimacy he is entitled to is usually watching internet pornography through his phone screen in the darkness of his bedroom late at night. And, I think that there's some truth to that, and that is why you get some of this radicalization in this day and age. The development of birth control, especially the pill, has changed the dynamic of the male female relationship in Western society, for sure. And the politics surrounding all of that also affecting male female relationships, also social programs, the way that women are integrated into the workforce far more now than they were, not as reliant at all, if at all, on men, government policies, all of these things affecting relationships, but mostly technology, because you're seeing,
and the hypersexualization of the woman through that technology, by the way.
Oh yes. So through websites like Pornhub, and this obviously, the reason he went there, because the offices of Pornhub in Montreal, so he went right to the building with the offices for Pornhub there to commit this horrific act yesterday. And he's talking specifically about Pornhub in this document. He's bemoaning it. He's anti-pornography. And our society has changed so much, so quickly, really, when you consider it. It may not seem like it to people, but you look at the way pornography is now just readily available online. Hardcore pornography. You can virtually anything and everything is just instantly available to people right there, anywhere you are, 24/7, 365 on your phone. You're carrying it around. It's even on, X and some other social media platforms that are not really dedicated porn platforms, but you can find hardcore pornography even on there. And, when I think back to like the 80s in here in Ontario, most of that stuff was not available at all. It was basically illegal. So we've gone from that, and I think back to those are the days of like Ronald Reagan and the Meese Commission, the right-wing politics in America at that time, very focused on Christianity and family values and those sorts of things. And they were combating pornography back at that time. I remember a lot of those hearings, and now we've gone way over here to this kind of extreme. And then you've got all these other issues layered on top of that, the LGBTQS plus community rights, same-sex marriage. We've gone from all that stuff being in the closet to right out in the open, and pride parades and pride flags being flown. So it's a completely different situation where the political pendulum on these cultural issues has swung all the way over, I think, largely to the other side.
It is. And I think that this is where he's trying to attack liberalism and capitalism at the same time, because you don't speak about capitalism without capitalizing, if you will, on pornography nowadays, because how proliferant it is and how much. I mean, look, how many times I just look at my X, looking at, those notifications you get on X, see how many people try to follow you or not. And some of them are probably like people who's asking me, probably bots that has some, say, OnlyFans or whatnot kind of thing. So it's proliferant everywhere, and that's just on X. So don't mind even on Facebook or other type of social media. So yeah, it's a disease. I will say that.
Yeah, and with the the evolution at an expanding at an exponential rate, artificial intelligence, you already see these sites online where they are promoting AI girlfriends for people, so you can interact online
Mm-hmm.
on many levels socially with these fake digital creations online that are beyond realistically perfect. No human woman can measure up in some respects, because they'll never get tired. They'll always do what you want, and be entirely compliant. And just makes it so easy, I guess. It's artificial, but becoming more and more realistic over time. Then you add in robot technology, androids, and the next thing you know, we're living in a Blade Runner simulation in reality where you can't tell humans from replicants.
Exactly, and that's the problem, because now you're interacting so much with those AI girls and whatnot. Because what you don't get is that once you start with that, is you get into now the world of your mindset, and in your mindset you got, well, this little thing that we always secreted always around. I don't know if you remember the term, but it slipped on my mind. But yeah, when you look online, dopamine is your worst enemy. And that's what you get with those AI girlfriend and whatnot. You get a surge of dopamine like no tomorrow. So that's why people get addicted to these things pretty easily. And it's dangerous, I think, in our society.
I think the larger point here is just that we have not probably as a society paid enough attention to this. I've always kind of leaned on the side of, more free speech and free expression rather than less, fewer restrictions instead of more. However, I don't think there's any question these issues as they relate to human relationships, human sexuality, mental health, these need further discussion and investigation. We need to take a much closer look at this stuff. This person, this Seth Hatfield, when I'm reading this, it's like a call for help. But it's too late at this point. But for him, anyway, but maybe not for other people. We should, I think, really be looking at all of these issues that are being brought up in this manifesto. And that's how we at least find something good that might come out of this incredibly horrific tragedy, instead of just like burying it and putting it, off into the darkness. Maybe really look at this and say, hey, we have to examine all of these issues, especially in this new digital age, more carefully moving forward into the future, which we're already beginning to do. But I don't think that the people doing it are properly equipped or well versed enough. And a lot of them, I think, are just too darn old to really understand the technology.
No, that technology basically, and I've been saying that for a while now, it's a Pandora box that we did open. And the problem with that is that humankind have um, never been ready enough to open that Pandora box or
Yeah.
any Pandora box of any nature. So
So here he talks about a hypergamy and women's preferences, and he says he describes a hypergamy state in which women favor a plethora of attractive males rather than being bound to one partner, leaving common males behind. And I don't think he really kind of gets into this, but this is also just, a result of, and I don't think he's entirely wrong here in that if you look at the way, look at the level of promiscuity out there, premarital sex, all these things, that's become the norm in our society rather than the exception. Birth control,
mhm.
I think, has played a big role in that, but also social media, television, media in general over a long time. And, if you're, depending on where you're at, culturally, religious, your religious views and things, some people might say it's showing decay of moral values, but what, whether you view it as entirely through a moralistic lens or not, I don't think there's any question that the technology, especially combined with just changing societal attitudes, it's radically changing the relationship between men and women. And here he's talking about a hypergamy state where basically men now, who I think in the past, especially, you go back 50, 60, 100 years, women would, try to marry up to a man who's out there being the breadwinner. But now they don't need men for that anymore. And women can choose when to get pregnant because they have access to birth control. And that means they can have multiple partners without much fear of getting pregnant. And so
Mhm.
now sex becomes as much recreational as it is to build a relationship with a person, right? And so it's
Right?
changed a lot.
Well, maybe, and that's just my assumption from my own personality in a way, if I can extrapolate from what I'm seeing here. And the guy basically what he's saying is that I'm not trusting women enough anymore because they are not what they used to be, like have one partner and be to one partner only, where now they are permissive in their relationship or extramarital marriage relationship, if I can put it this way. Like the new norm is that, well, I don't have to have only one male partner in sex nowadays because it's the normal or the new trend or something along those lines. So, yeah.
Yeah. He calls for a violent revolution here, and I even hate putting this stuff up here, but this is already out through other media. And he urges people here to lay their hands on a blade, a rifle, a bomb, or all of the above and start a global revolution, adding, we must not allow any liberal or capitalist enclave, however small, to continue to exist after we take power. Um, I hear too much talk like that, frankly, from a lot of people who, some of whom I think most of them don't really quite mean it, but other ones I think maybe do. And I find it all disturbing when I hear talk like that. And here it is again. And I think these manifestos have become just a staple for anybody committing an act like this. Whenever I see these, anytime there's a shooting like this, especially like in the States or here in Canada, there's always a manifesto left behind now. And this just is the latest the latest version.
Well, that does tell me how much social media in general, with all what you see and what you're reading from this guy, did put this man into a us versus them kind of mentality where that's where he started to become radicalized. And that's just, well, it's a sociological assumption of what I'm looking. And I mean, probably also psychological, but yeah, that's my take.
So we have more to talk about here. We have more on this manifesto, but I think Ian, maybe what we'll do is I'll just open up the phone lines so that if anybody wants to call in and join in on this sensitive issue tonight, feel free. But Ian and I will continue the conversation here, and you're welcome to offer up your opinion as well and assist us after this.
Yeah, you do.
Okay, Mavericks, it's call-in time. Join the conversation. Call 1-647-734-4220. Then enter the PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the pound sign. Exercise your right to free speech. Call 1-647-734-4220. Then enter the PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the pound sign. Call 1-647-734-4220. Then enter the PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the pound sign. Maverick News. Call now. The world is watching and listening to you.
All right. Well, actually, this is where I would say, well, I would advise people to call because actually it is a sensitive topic. And that's, I wouldn't say that it's a way to desensitize yourself about it, but a good way to understand things from the inside is probably to participate in it. So, hmm. Uh, Check your mic, I think, just in case. Yeah. Some people say no audio.
Oh, I know why. There it is. That's why. Audio's back now, right? There we go.
Yeah, I
Thank
think
you.
so.
Yeah, it won't feed in unless I have that other window up. Thank you for letting me know. I guess it came down when I ran that promo. So here we are. We'll start over on this. The shooter in this manifesto here saying, on common males and oppression, make no mistake, the most voiceless, exploited, marginalized, forgotten, despised, abandoned, and oppressed group within society is objectively and undeniably common males, which would run counter to the the progressive narrative, which is that white males are at the top of the hierarchy and they have all the privilege, and it's all
Hmm.
these other groups going down the pecking order of the ladder that are oppressed, and therefore the white males have to, like, that's really the way that it's set up in their minds. What's your view? Is there how does this play into tonight's discussion, Ian?
Well, this is telling me how two things actually. First one is how we are being marginalized, how he says it, right? So first of the thing that reminds me what you have with the alpha males or beta males and whatnot, right? Some of them, if you remember, I don't remember exactly what story you did run, but remember those who says that we are old and now we should probably let the younger generation get to the point thing. So that is in oneself, I think, in that direction. That's where he's going. So he's looking into that. And yeah, the voiceless, where, well, that's basically us, the voiceless to a certain degree.
That's his take on it. Let's move on. Montreal Shooter Manifesto, he says, on the three sociobiological classes under hypergamy, the three classes are, in descending order, the males that are sexually desired and considered attractive by females, the females themselves, and lastly, the common males, which are the majority of males. So I guess in a clavicular type of reality where everybody is, there's this looks maxing and bodybuilding and chiseling your facial features and getting jacked up on different kinds of, I guess, steroids to make your muscles bigger and whatever, cosmetic surgery. And then you've got the
Yeah.
common males and all of that kind of
What?
surgery too, I think blends in with this, the concept of transhumanism and transgenderism. So,
Yeah.
well, on the conservative side, well, these guys seem to be promoting a more, I think that in their minds that they're sort of promoting a more conservative, traditional, trad wife existence, traditional wife, traditional roles. But in reality, because of all the crazy things they're doing to their bodies and the attitude and the culture surrounding all of it, it's a transition and an evolution forward into the same kind of mindset, really, that you're getting with anything that's converging toward a transhuman existence.
Actually, no, it is true. You're making a point here, and not only that. If you look at clavicular and what he's trying to portray, women don't have to get, well, from the point of view of at Heartland or Hartfield. Sorry, he doesn't go to. He goes to the point where actually women don't have to get that much, say, aesthetic thing to go through to get to a point where they're attractive enough to get, to a to a best to a power place, right? They don't get to the most powerful place just because they're they get into cosmetic change, although that helps for certain of them.
Okay,
But
we've
that's probably the idea.
we have a couple of new callers. I'm not sure who to start with, but I'm not even sure who's on the line there. But who wants to go first?
Hi, Rick. I'll take a stab at it. It's Sharon calling from Brandon, Manitoba.
Hi there.
Hi, Rick. Hi, Ian.
Hello.
So take it away.
Well, I'll take a stab at it because there's quite a few points that you and Ian have brought up that type of that made me think about things I have probably thought about too. When you mentioned, Rick, the pill and the increase in promiscuity, I think, between men and women really became common because if there is no, the consequence before was, to create new life, a shotgun marriage, that would seem to deter a lot of people at the time from following through until, they found someone or important to them and wanted to marry. In a way, kind of breaking apart or changing the family unit or tradition. Just more recently, really recently, as far as men and their role in society has changed a lot as well, where before they were the main breadwinners. And I know there's pros and cons, but I think, there, for the most part, there will always be unsuccessful marriages or destructive marriages between a man and a woman. But for the most part, I think it was also a good thing for society as well. The family, or the traditional family, seemed to bring a lot of stability and there's a lot of stability and order. But with women's liberation, and there's pros and cons, I think, in every movement. But I think for many, it's been a few years already, since the early 70s, over 50 years.
60s, really, when you think about it, right? The flower children and hippies and, if it feels good, do it,
Yeah. I remember my oldest brother was going through that phase, and it was almost like a rebellion against, this strictness and this type of protocol and how to behave in society and civility and it's following some type of limits, and it seemed to open up or remove the limits that how humans could behave socially and individually towards each other over time. To the point now where this young man, how old was he when he died?
25.
Was
25.
25. Jeez, that's young. And to be thinking and feeling this way, I'm not saying, I'm not saying how he approached his dilemma or problem was good at all. It was not beneficial to anyone. This is true. You guys pointed out this is maybe a place to start the conversation, because it seems with the internet, you guys mentioned that, and it's such a what
That's
did Ian called it, a Pandora's box. It certainly is. It certainly is. And you get this repetition of the message, whether it's, men have to be at a certain financial status or else they're no good. Like it seems to be escalating. It's repeating itself over and over. There's this fantasy, not reality, where, a young lady may not, for the most part, I think
the societal norm has changed with those decades. Yeah.
99% of the time, maybe the exception is to find the 6 or 7 or 8 figure dollar man, but it's not reality. And so this person that felt inadequate in some ways, I think the more men, the male, has been almost, well, ridiculed at times before with sitcoms. I think the diminishment, whether it's a female or male, but especially men, where they feel You don't have to compete with me as a woman. You don't have to compete. And for the most part, it seems this newest generation of, late teens, early 20s, there seems to be a competition. And I don't think that's how traditionally it always has been. Certainly I know it hasn't been. So that's my thought so far.
Who else is on the line with us?
Actually, I think you got a lot of point there.
So somebody else is there too. Who's there?
Hi, Rick. It's Angie from Kelowna.
Hey. How
Hey,
are
what's
you?
up?
I have, I don't know, I don't want to say a difference of opinion, but just something to consider.
Mhm.
So in most other cultures, specifically Asian, the family unit really stays together, like
Mhm.
grandparents, kids, and whatnot. So I hosted international students for 16 years. Some of the students actually shared a room with their grandpa or their grandma. And I think
The nuclear family.
what really changed is that we believe in North America that the kids should move out when they're 18 unless they're going to college or school, and we kind of push things away. And especially during, COVID times, what that did for me, I was at my parents' every Sunday for dinner because we technically weren't allowed to see anyone. So we had to sit 6 feet apart, and my dad wouldn't come near me. My mom would hug me around the corner where my dad couldn't see, and I think that community, no matter what that looks like for a family, that has really deteriorated. And also too, like I messaged the city, the regional district, and a bunch over the past month because I want to start a community block watch because crime is increases, and I don't think we should just rely on the government and the RCMP and everyone. I think we need to be invested in ourselves. And it's just so intriguing to me how hard it is to get everyone involved. And I remember when I moved to Vancouver, when I was going to broadcasting school, and I went and shook my neighbor's hands and said, hey, you know what, if my car is sitting outside for 3 days, please call the police. Because I didn't know them. They didn't know me. And I remember there was a couple next door. He was white, she was Asian. A couple across the street, I got to know them really well because their kids loved coming in my house and hanging out. So, and then I had a couple of kids next door, but no one else would talk and interact. And, there was I can't remember what I saw it on, but they said, the days of the grandmas sitting on the patio and in a rocking chair, drinking sweet tea and gossiping about everyone, that's actually a really important part of society because people started to say, did you know so-and-so's kid is sick? Did you know so-and-so's parent is ailing? So you go and you spend time with them, get them some tea or buy them or make them a casserole, those kind of things. I think we've really lost that, especially in the larger centers. And I think we have this quiet expectation on kids. I think obviously society has changed. Everyone complain about that we're giving them participation ribbons and all this, but I know that's not just in our culture. I know that my South Asian kids really struggled with mental health when they would come here and be far away from their family unit. So I think it's, and the incel thing is that's just such a bizarre thing for me I can't really grasp my head around that. And I don't understand if a person calls themselves that or if other people call them that. Like, it's really a complex situation and depends on the individual. But I find it super interesting if someone is blaming like a whole sex of people for their limitations in life. We were talking about, or you guys were talking about like the free, 1969, when everyone was a hippie and doing whatever they want. I think that like all of this just shifts and changed. And somehow, some way, I don't want to say we've glorified unaliving ourselves but that's truly what happens. And what happens with something like this, we've seen it with famous people when they take their own life, there are copycats. And what it does is it gives people permission for the next steps. And so I have worked with people with mental health challenges, and I can tell you that if one person in the family tries to do it, someone else likely will. I don't want to say it's hereditary, but doesn't matter if you're going to be a fireman, a nurse, you're going to play hockey, that allows someone else who looks up to you to do that kind of thing. And I don't know where this all, and also too, I'm not really social media savvy, but I think we've created this us against them, you know, no matter if it's a traditional family or if it's, you know, openly gay or if it's whatever. I think we've really screwed ourselves in the fact, I guess, pun intended, that we just need to accept everyone as they are. And I think we need to encourage people to like really work hard. I think that's a part of our issue. Is I was speaking to a couple the other day who they are going to go traveling and they're like, yeah, we really don't need to go to the store. We'll just Instacart everything. And I'm thinking, what in the hell has got, so you're not going to go and buy groceries. You're not going to. And I think we've allowed all of this with AI and all of this other stuff to really take ownership of our own lives that we're not living it.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to change where,
I think, Angie,
you know, people need to
go
work
ahead.
hard.
You just made me think of something else too, how solitary a computer is, and how solitary in the sense of, you know, younger people going out together, meeting together, doing things together before in my day, and how isolating someone, a young person, or anyone really, if they're spending a lot of time conversing through texts, it's not as personal. You miss out on a lot of things when you're just working through the computer. And I think that's also seems to be a big factor, I think, anyway.
Hey,
I
Angie,
100%
that's
agree
true.
with you on that.
I'm curious.
I say often that on chat, you don't, even me, when I do some emojis on the chat on Maverick, sometimes people don't seem to see the the emotion behind what I'm saying. Sometimes some people would feel attack when I'm trying actually to use the comical kind of argument with them and try just to be funny with them, and I'm not trying to attack them. I'm just, you know, we're just a family. I'm a family guy. I do joke, you know, I'm right there
Yeah.
just to have some fun at the same time that I'm doing some moderation. So, you know, it's keeping the things easy around. But it's
Angie,
hard with
I'm
the
curious.
propaganda that we have.
I'm curious to get your take on what's your view on whether this manifesto or any portion of it should have been released. How do you view it?
Are you talking to me?
Angie,
that's such
especially
a
with
good.
your background in,
Yeah,
in
sure.
media.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was previously a reporter years and years ago. I don't know. It's hard to know what the right thing is to do, but I also think social media and everything has taken that to the next step. Like I was actually on a live on TikTok last night where you could get like 7 different views of it going on, like because people recorded it. And I remember a time when that just wasn't the case, and we've all desensitized ourselves to that. So in regards to the manifesto, do I think it's good? No, it's not, because it does encourage other people, but this whole situation is going to encourage other people anyways. And I think like it's no different than someone who is dabbling in drugs or putting their family through the, you know, the challenges of addiction. I think you got to reach out first. If your son is not leaving the room, if they're addicted to being online, I've had numerous friends, especially in small communities, get absolutely addicted to only watching YouTube in their echo chamber. Swear to God, something is going on. The government's against us, blah, blah, blah. And the more you look at it, the more you can see that. And like what I honestly did today, which was funny because I was like, I haven't seen Rick for a while. I went through and I actually removed all of my subscriptions on YouTube because I just don't want that in my life right now, because everything just feels so negative. And it doesn't matter if I'm hanging out with my, you know, my conservative right friends or my liberal left friends. Like, I just want us to have discussions and have opportunity to hear and listen to each other, because I think that is the missing art. And I appreciate that you're hosting this tonight, Rick, because yeah, it was a conversation that we had live last night. And what I find so intriguing is that we also don't allow the opportunity to have the conversations. So even with our legacy media, they are either left or right, I'm going to buy a subscription to Reuters because they are the most centric, I believe, that we have currently accessible in Canada. Because I don't want to listen to all of the BS and the rhetoric. And, do I love Mark Carney? Shit, no, I do not. And just today I accidentally ended up downtown at a local municipal, they unveiled our first electric bus that we had. So I went on a ride, just random, was downtown at the right time. I have an MLA who I adore. She does my hometown and I fight for her. She is not the same political party as I am, but I give her everything. I also hold her accountable. She came up, she was in tears with me saying, "You are so supportive of me and thank you." And I'm thinking, that's how we all need to be. You know what I mean? I don't 100% agree with her politics, but I will fight tooth and nail to make sure A, that she does what she needs to for the area, and B, if she needs to be invited or known about something, I'm not going to hold stuff back. And maybe that's where we've gotten to, that we're holding stuff back, whether it's door knocking, whether it's community. And, anyway, story longer, but I'm trying to create the Block Watch program in the Okanagan and get people inspired to take back your own street. Don't waste time on someone else, because do we think of this kid's family, and bless them, and I feel for them, and I don't blame them at all, but should the community have stepped in? Did people know? If they knew, they're going to feel horrible now, and now you're going to ache with that for decades. What we're doing right now is wrong on so many levels, morally, spiritually, because we aren't connecting with people. We're so inclined, and I think, Rick, you and I have both experienced this, when people are just bored at home, have no life, sit on social media or whatever it is, attack us, go down the drain, and make up stupid stories about us that aren't even true. And what happens is, those people sit at home. They are, I don't know if they're locked in on purpose or not, but they just want to get all their angst and crap out. Those people just need to go and sit in the sunshine for 20 minutes. Go for a walk. If you can't walk, at least get outside. And I really think that we're all living too much on our phone. We're all living too much on our computer. We're all not living life in the real world. And I think that's a large part of it. And with the AI stuff, I'll tell you this, I did a little bit of a tour online, going from a bunch of different social media apps, quite frankly, some AI porn sites, with a friend the other day, to show them that you can absolutely make up your own AI person that'll send you pictures and do all this. And I'm like, how healthy is that? So now you're going to stay in your room even longer? I do think that Pornhub and they all should be held accountable. I think it's going to go way too far away. And I realize that some studies show that it's better for a man to be involved in an AI or a doll rather than human. Bullshit. That's just bizarre.
That's scary,
and whoever's
Angie. That is
researching
scary.
that. Yeah, and
that's
it is,
scary.
because I think a couple of things.
The real world.
If people are having a hard time, they need to reach out and ask for help. And if you don't get the help you need, you keep asking for help. You don't just do a one and done. There's so many things going on.
A lot of dopamine hits from a lot of different sources, whether it's a negative source or just to, like you said, alleviate boredom. I mean, what did people do? You're right, because what did people do before the internet, before this computer, on a mass scale, to relieve boredom? Well, you can, like you said, you can go out and do some type of activity. You can read. You can do some type of sport. I mean, there's a lot out there to do, but it's too. You know what? It's too easy, too convenient to be lost in another reality. Like you said, it's not a reality. It's fantasy or illusion or just propaganda or whatever is available now.
Let
But
me ask you
it's
this.
very true.
When
The
was
real world is real.
When was the last time you heard someone played Nicky Nicky Nine Doors or toilet papered a house or even went out dancing somewhere?
Yeah.
So in my hometown, about 3 or 4 times a year, some kids toilet paper stuff, or they do Nicky Nicky Nine Doors. You can't imagine how many people are like, "You kids go, that's amazing." because kids don't do that stuff anymore. You know,
Yeah.
hardly any kid. I remember going to school in the fall. There had to be 3 people that had a broken arm, or someone had a broken leg, or some scars, because, you know, we didn't helicopter our kids. And
Yeah.
I just think we're not allowing the healthy risk, and everyone,
Generation
including
X
myself.
rules.
Yeah, we're just guilty of being stuck to our phones as I sit here, hold my phone, and talk to you guys.
Well, there seems to be a lot of lack of accountability too, and consequence. I'm noticing sometimes on some of these crime shows, or, you know, police shows, and it's amazing how often younger people don't seem to realize that, you know, when they act, or when they do certain things that are breaking the law, they don't seem to realize or don't care about the consequences, or they're just not used to receiving them. Is that part of it, you guys? What do you think?
There's that. I think there's a lot of that, because look, I'm from the Generation X. My mom used to tell me not to climb on trees or do whatnot tricks with my BMX, or I'll get hurt. And well, as you know, well, I'm a daredevil. So, but the thing is that, look, I'll tell you another thing. I think there's a lot of what I call cognitive laziness nowadays, which back in our days, when we wanted to know something or to do something, we had to go from point A to point B to get, and even C to get to what we wanted to get, right? Where today you have everything on the palm of your hand, just on the tip of your finger. That's brain laziness. And not just brain laziness, but I would call that cognitive laziness. So, I mean, if you ask yourself a question about, say, for example, the shooter yesterday, what was in his mind, and the first thing that you get is the not full version of, say, Rebel News or another social media kind of guy, well, you ain't gonna get like the full version of it. And the first thing that you're gonna get is the first thing that your brain is going to record, basically. So you're gonna live in that false narrative and that false reality, where when you listen to guys like us, you're gonna get basically the answers that, no, that's not what the other guy said. And yeah, that's where you get cognitive dissonance getting into the full play now.
So, and Angie, I'd like to get your view on that, because I'm honestly getting tired of the way these stories are reported, to the point where it's predictable which media outlet is going to, where they're going to land on these stories. This being a perfect example, where legacy
Yeah.
media instantly, it's an incel, and then you've got Rebel Media on the other side saying, no, he's a communist anti-Semite.
Mhm.
And
And see, like
not,
that,
you know,
that's the kind of stuff we should be reporting to the CRTC. But of course, Rebel isn't attached to the CRTC. And I think you have to, like, this is where you have to have your own critical thinking. And like,
Yeah.
I enjoy talking to people of all faiths, of all religions, of all genders, of you name it. I want to learn about people. And I think what's happened is just the echo chamber. Like, that's what I was saying last night. Everyone's calling this guy an incel. I'm like, so I Google it. I'm like, why are we talking about this? Like, that's like me talking about someone's sexual identity or gender. And, but to have the manifesto out in the public, like, I need to ask, whose decision was that? Like, I think, so for example, unfortunately, there was intimate partner violence in my hometown 2 years ago. And we had no idea how that woman lost her life until it went to court. So why wouldn't have this been kept until a full investigation was done, right? Like, we assumed this individual took his ex-partner's life. We didn't know how it was. Now, we all know it's horrendous. But if there's going to be a proper police investigation, why wasn't this information held on to? That's my challenge. And then I kind of feel also too, and I'll get your feedback on, Rick. I kind of want this stuff when it goes to a hearing. I want that to be absolutely publicized so that we all can watch it. I want to see what's going on. I want to hear the investigation, because I think that would help us hold people accountable. Like, whoever allowed the manifesto to go public, that person and the boss above them and the boss above them should be fired. Like, there's never going to be a clear investigation that's going to find out what was really the root of all of this evil.
Well, in this,
In my opinion.
yeah, in this case, it's out in the public to the degree that it is right now because of Rebel News. Other media outlets had it, but they didn't release it. Rebel News got a hold of it and released 34 pages out of the 104. Well,
And that just goes to show you again that they aren't journalists. They don't have journalistic integrity.
Right.
Neither do any of these folks who claim they're independent
Mhm.
media. They
Oh,
just
mhm.
don't have that the education from senior news reporters coaching them on what and what not to do. Like, they are there for the clicks, they're there for the shares, and they're there for the money. I don't care who they are. They
And
just
I struggled with it, through the night and today. I was like, should I even put this stuff up? Should I post the equivalent amount that they have? And I didn't put any of it up. And the only stuff I'm sharing here tonight are quotes from it that have already been widely distributed, because I don't really want to promote this guy, right?
Mhm.
But at least we're
Mhm.
having some sort of a constructive discussion tonight.
Mhm.
And the
it
thing is,
it
I
forces
think
the
it's a
hand
great
too of
conversation to have.
other media
Yeah.
outlets, when one media outlet puts it
Yeah,
out there,
yeah.
and then they get all the traffic because it's a car wreck and the public can't resist looking at it, right? So they get all
Well,
the traffic. So Rebel News is cleaning up on clicks and views.
and
Okay, I
and
just thought of
no
something.
different than the CBC and others do as well, right? They're going to their echo chamber. They're going to
Mhm.
they're saying this is how the world is, see it through this eye.
Yeah.
And it's just not the case. That's why people were complaining about, I can't remember what the heck the complaint was about last week. Oh, because Trump gal pal there, he fired her and now she's on the board of a mining company in Canada. And I'm like, how does this affect your life, British Columbians? Y'all are
Yeah.
sitting here complaining about it. How does this affect your life? Are you involved in the mining community?
Yeah.
Are you going to see her? Do you have someone that you love is going to make money off it? Then who gives a flying frick? Like,
Yeah.
let it go.
Yeah.
Pretty
I
much.
just thought
And
it's
Go ahead, Sharon.
sorry,
Go
I just
ahead.
want to object. Well, not object, but I'm gonna point out something that Sharon, not Sharon, sorry, Angie said. Actually, that is interesting, and I've been dabbling with that idea. Nowadays, does the Viva Frei and the independent media, sorry, Rick, to a certain degree, because that may be also kind of might go on that direction at some point, but I hate to say it, but should we all be under the CRTC to a certain degree, or have some kind of how can I put that? Should we be underneath it? Because what Rebel News and Viva Frei or whatnot, other sorry for if Viva Frei is not doing much about it, but say Rebel News and other social media trying to portray the whole thing, and this would stir more copycat or other situation like that, because they're using their, like, say, not real journalist skills to do that, basically steering more violence. Underneath the CRTC, they would be under a lot of boiling water, if you get my drift. And I mean, that would give them the accountability that they need to have to a certain degree to foment that kind of attack or rhetoric.
Sharon?
I think along the
I
kind of
think
along
it's
the
kind
same
of
line.
twofold with that.
I think
to
I'm
be
kind of along the
completely-
same line. Sorry. Oh, go ahead.
No,
You go
Sharon,
ahead.
you were waiting before, so you go ahead, Sharon.
Well, a couple of points that leapt out at me right away was, Angie, where you were talking about the media. And what leapt to my mind right away was the extreme now seems to be the norm. Anything extreme as far as views, news, information. We've become desensitized to extreme points of view or behavior. Yes, with Ian, I agree. If I don't know how this would happen, but under CRTC guidelines and best practices, when you get these podcasters, they're not news organization. They're podcasters, and this was my question to both Rick and Angie. I know money and marketing and advertising made the world go round as far as news and what we saw on the news in the past. So what's the difference between then, Rick, when you were working at CTV, and Angie, when you were working before in news journalism? What was the difference before? Your bosses are still trying to make a buck. What's the difference then as opposed to now? Is it the speed? Is it the lack of supervision? What am I trying to say here? What's
What's
changed?
different? I think there's a
Yeah.
couple of things. So when I was a news reporter, I first got trained that I could not put a story on the news unless I had both sides. So say, for example, there's a mill
Yeah.
being shut down. So I'd have to get the owner of the mill and I'd have to get the union. And then what I would do when you really were in the thick of it, then you'd get like a streeter. So you'd go around and you'd ask a number of people. But I was never told what to and not to say on the news. That just never happened. So we were completely a different entity. And for sure, we get all of our, I shouldn't say all, but we get a handful of clients that would call in and say, we're cutting our ties with you because you said this, this, and this about our business community or something. Like occasionally that would happen, but we were never restricted and we were never encouraged to do anything. And so the sales side of things, and I can only speak for radio for the handful of companies that I worked for in BC as a news reporter, and then later when I was operations manager, or we never dictated what they could and could not say. If it was valid and it was local, it went on the news 100%. And I think now, anyways, you had to have both sides when I started, and that's 25 years ago. That's just not the case. And so funny enough with Viva Frey, he's like, why won't they announce the guy's name? He literally posted that last night. And I said, hey, if you were a man with journalistic integrity, I literally just went on X last night and he was there. I said, you would know that it's important for the next of kin to be informed first. And then also the police have to go and not only check out this kid's house, but where he works, maybe a cafe that he was at, maybe a family friend and the family. That they're not going to announce all that until they have the investigation well underway and places secured. It's all of these different places that this guy was at in the last week are a potential crime scene. So if Viva Frey is not smart enough to do that, like, man, no wonder he flunked law school.
Yeah. A lot of things have changed, and it's because of the technology. And, in this respect, the medium is still the message. The entire time, and mainstream media or legacy media is still governed, restricted by codes of ethics, ethics codes, standards. You have not just the CRTC, but the Canadian Broadcast Standards Council. If anybody has an issue with the way any program is handled or any news program presents a story and you have an issue, you can file a complaint with the Canadian Broadcast Standards Council. In fact, I encouraged people to file complaints at one point during the pandemic because of the way some of the reporting was being handled then. But online, none of that really exists. The rules online come from the social media companies, which then to some degree are governed by government, but largely I think it's the other way around, with the big tech bros dictating to government how much or regulation or deregulation or lack of regulation they're dealing with. So like I indicated, and Ian was kind of alluding to this, when Rebel News posts the manifesto, or a portion of it, because it's not the whole thing, they censored it too to support, I think, their particular narrative. But when they put it up, that gives them a huge advantage over legacy media. Now, legacy media can post that stuff online and skirt the rules of this, the Canadian Broadcast Standards Council, or their promise of performance to the CRTC, where they have to meet certain guidelines and content issues and so on. They can play the game online too, but they're trying to work within the restrictive guidelines or parameters of those rules. And even if it's the Radio, Television, Digital News Directors Association Code of Ethics, there are all these different standards. And for me personally, I found that my standards were slipping and the ethics were slipping away. Too much blah blah blah, right? And too much playing games with narratives and just instantly coming in and presenting stories from a entirely political perspective in order to support either a conservative ideology or take on things, or the other way. And I decided some time back that I had to just stop doing that and get away from it. And I've been self-imposing the old standards on myself as much as I can in this new medium in order to just elevate the standard, because it just, journalism, as I keep saying, it's largely dead. I'm trying to resurrect it here in my own small way with this platform. That's honestly why we're not bigger, because the algorithms online support polarization. And that means largely supporting, as Angie just indicated, negative content. That's what drives things online. If I post really negative headlines and thumbnails, and I admit that I do try to create headlines or titles and things that will grab the audience, but that's to get them in there. And then I'm trying to, I always impose an ethics code even there, but once they're in, I'm trying to provide programming here now, especially that meets those standards, and I'm self-imposing those. I don't have to follow that. I could have easily posted the same stuff that Rebel News posted, but I chose not to. And you guys have seen me refrain from posting, like when President Trump posts a video, a surveillance camera video on his platform, Truth Social, of a woman being beaten to death with a hammer, like literally being beaten in the head with a hammer, killed, and he posts that on his Truth Social account. That normalizes the violence. That's not good for society. And the president posted that, but I personally didn't share it. I talked about it that night, but there was no way I was going to share that here. I could have, but I didn't, because it's just disgusting. And our society is rolling down this slippery slope into a great big abyss.
Rick, you're answering my question.
Well, that's because the society has steered away from the statu quo that we used to have back in the 80s and before that, where we had some accountability.
Rick, you're answering my question, because I was going to say next, like, okay, why are there rules? And you answered my question. Why are there rules? Why are there ethics, integrity and ethics or standards in news broadcasting? And you answered my question, because if there isn't a minimum of decorum or decency or integrity, it's not good for society. Right. And what I'm witnessing and what I've heard, and among other group chats, when I was on with you a couple of times before, and I walked away with the realization that I need to pick and choose carefully who I listen to. Angie kind of touched on this earlier with who she's going to listen to or watch, and and she can formulate her own opinion, as well as Rick and Ian and everyone else on the chat. And that's what I'm realizing, how what's the word I'm looking for? What a mess we're in now. If this is what a so-called podcasters are free to air, and like you said too, this ties in part two, Rick, what you were saying, what the technology companies are allowing to be heard worldwide throughout the public, which isn't good for society. Then we're going to have, then we're sunk, we're lost. But fortunately, there are a few bright lights spots where people can still go, where it's not driven by negativity. This is one of the places to do that for sure. And so that's what I wanted to say. You just made my head explode. So well,
just
here's
a very brief comment.
Sign though too.
Super brief comment. I think that it's social media that is contributing to what we just saw. whether it's the porn sites or
Yeah.
the violence online. That's what's triggering and conditioning and normalizing the violence to the point where we got this thing yesterday in Montreal.
Normalizing the
think so
violence,
too.
normalizing the extremism. Exactly.
Yeah.
How many people,
Agreeing.
Rick, when you started in radio or television, I can't remember what you started first, how many were in the news department at that time? Here's the telling sign, like clearly telling sign. How many in the first radio station? Do you remember?
Oh man. I worked here in this town, actually, one of my first jobs in radio, and there were probably 10 people just in the news department. Yeah.
And so here, to put this into perspective, there are 16 people in the city of Kelowna that do communications for the city of Kelowna. I guarantee you there's not 16 news people in the Okanagan Valley.
Yeah.
For radio, I should say, speaking strictly for radio. So we have more people in communication positions in government, in, doing PR than we have reporters now. And so I often talk about this. When I got hired back at Bell, I was supervising a phone sales team. What happened within that week? I think I got started on the Monday. On the Thursday, they fired all of the news directors right across Canada I don't think we were Bell Media at the time. I can't remember if we were Bell or Estrel, but nonetheless, I felt like crap because our news director had 2 small kids. And I was like, he should have my job. I don't need it. Do you know what I mean? I can find something else to do. And I felt super guilty. And that was literally when things shifted and changed. All of a sudden, rather than you get a press release, you're literally taking information off Twitter and you are reading it. And like a person who's running for council here, him and I were talking this week, and I said, like, I still send out, PR things, whether it's, a garage sale for the community or, we just had Lumpy Days. I do all of the PR for that still. And so whatever I send out, they don't even check it or call us. They just print it. And I'm like, I get that I was in the media for years, and I've done news reports, and, I have some journalistic integrity, but they should still call and do an interview, and they don't. They just don't. And we had to have an event at 10 o'clock in the morning last week, because if we had it at 6 o'clock at night where all the businesses could attend, the media wasn't allowed to attend because they're only allowed to work from 6 till 2 or 9 till 5 or right. So we've gone from 30 people in a news department up and down the valley to I bet you there's 7.
Yeah.
So that just shows you, and the senior reporters that taught me were not only in the company that I worked for, they were actually in our competition as well. So when I started up at a new place, the manager would meet with me, our competition, and say, hey, you know what? And like go around, introduce me to everyone. They were glorious. So that when they hired a new person, I did the same. We really worked as a team, even though we were kind of competition. And like that just doesn't happen anymore. So now you have these young people that are coming out of broadcasting school, which is, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, do you even need that when you have the Viva Phrase and you have the Rebel News who they don't have integrity? They aren't asking the hard-hitting question. They're also not sharing you the other side. They just aren't.
It's on purpose.
You know what? I'll say this quickly, and I'll ask the question to you, NG and Rick, as you have the background in news, basically, in journalism. What you see, and I would probably do an analogy out of what happened during the Roman Empire when you had the bread and the bread and soup, basically, during the gladiator time and whatnot, right?
Bread
It was
circuses,
just,
you mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
bread and circuses. Thank you. So yeah, that's basically what it is. What news is today, the new influencer / news guys or influencer, that's basically the bread and circus.
Well, it goes beyond that. It's about the money. You have, instead of journalists online, now you have paid political activists or, influencers is really what they are. Whether it's, my son, okay, he's working for an automotive parts company now, just doing videos, which is fine. That's automotive stuff. Like he's just doing funny videos and cool stuff, cool videos to sort of promote an auto parts company. But he's an influencer, right? He's not really practicing journalism. It's just entertaining content. But if you're watching a lot of these other influencers who deal with political content, people are consuming that thinking that they're getting news or journalism, and they're not. During the elections, they're watching a lot of these streamers who are paid political operatives, and I'm sorry, but whether it's Jasmine Lane or, you can go down the list. And it's like, but you don't know who's actually paying them. And it could be that they're being paid this month by this political party and next month by some foreign government. And it's kind of hard to keep tabs on, exactly why they're saying what they're saying, because you're not seeing the flow of the cash or the influence behind the scenes. And so you're seeing that even now with Tucker Carlson, where I wasn't even aware, but I didn't know that his dad was connected to Viktor Orban in Hungary. And, and the money was flowing there. So I was told in this interview that we did a couple of nights ago, but that explains a whole lot to me. And now he's coming out just yesterday saying, I'm no longer supporting the Republican Party. Well, why the shift? It's probably got something to do with the money. And so people are watching these people and they're thinking they're getting journalism. That's not journalism. That's he's a political influencer. And in many cases, it's not even just a political party in your own country. They're working for foreign governments. In fact, today I'm filling out a form because of old accounting stuff from like a few years ago for a television station in the States that I was syndicating my automotive program to, but they're very, heavily tuned into the foreign influence stuff on the US side. There's some money that has to be reconciled, just a small amount, but I have to fill out all these forms because I'm not a foreign agent. I had to sign, a declaration that I'm not getting funding from government at all, which I don't. And I've had to fill out all these forms in order to comply with not even just the regulations over there, but with the television network on that side, which is Scripps Broadcasting. They've got their own standards, which again, you don't have online, but I have to meet those standards even for that kind of programming. I'm just saying that what people are viewing online today is thinking it's journalism or news. It isn't. It's very polarizing influencing that's taking place. There's a war on for your minds, literally.
It changed the behavior of the people. And what you just did describe with what I said about the bread and circus, basically, is that all that will radicalize people. And like you said about 10 minutes ago, that you're going to have other people, or probably you got what you had yesterday in Montreal with that shooter. That because of that radicalization and all that bread and circus that you have online did bring people to that point.
And look, just one last point about the political stuff. Jasmine Lane isn't being invited to speak at the conservative convention because she's a journalist. She's being asked to go speak at the convention because she's a personality within the party, within the conservative movement, and they've created her. She's a creation of the party. That's why she's on the stage. And people are, well, isn't she such a success? And I'm not smearing her. That's her job, and she's very good at it, okay? But she's not a journalist. She's an influencer. There is a difference. It's not meant to be critical, but people need to make the distinction if you really want to understand what's going on and view things so that you're not, vulnerable to too much influence.
Rick, do you recall a conversation you had with me? It was just me and you, and you're like, hey, are you ready for this? We're going to go down a rabbit hole here. And it is, I think you said it's going to F up my mind or something. And I really didn't grasp what you were saying at the time. Because you were saying that there's people that are getting paid to do things, and I think you asked me a couple times and said, do you want to go down this rabbit hole? Because it could come back to bite you in the ass. And so here we are. I can't remember how many weeks into maybe me knowing you, maybe talking to you a month. And we find this donkey from the States that's sending money up. And we don't know who or where this money came up to help and support protesters in the BC interior. And we don't know where that money came. We can't be sure that it's from Canadian sources, American sources. And then we also found out that some of these sponsors that are encouraging people like Viva Frei and others, telling them to leave Canada, it's a weak country, come to the States, are getting paid by organizations and companies.
The bridge company.
Yeah. So, and like, what the hell? So, like, for me, that's international interference. And if I was a former reporter and I knew that was going on, I would have to go to my news director, the president of the company, and say, look, I have some information. I'm concerned that, one of my colleagues is getting paid, because you can't do that for news. But here we are, I can just constantly bash one kind of company, and then that someone else will come up and save me and take me to court, or that's the thing with all of this, is all of these influencers, they're not in trouble until they are, and the only way you can get them is through a civil court proceedings or slander or defamation, right? Like there's no real way. And this is where my struggle is, because I'm a big proponent of freedom of speech. I believe in, it's your body, it's your choice. I have my own beliefs for myself and what I do. So I really don't want the government to come in and tell us what we can and cannot do. But if you are being paid, and if you belong to an association, when none of these people do, someone should hold them accountable. And so I guess what I would like to see is a form of accountability. I don't want their freedom of speech to be shut down, but I want them to be accountable, because when I read something wrong on the news back in the day, I would have to then go back and say, from an early report, I said that they got convicted of this, this, and this, when in fact it was just this. So I had to go back, and we had a website at the time, so I'd have to put that on there. And we kept those on, I think, for a week, whereas newspapers still have to do that to this day. And so that's where my concern is I can, all of these yin yangs going on and telling us all what they think is to be true when they're not even looking at any of the evidence or looking at the other side of the story. No, it's just an opinion piece that's getting paid by whoever clicks, shares, and likes it.
But I'm going to elaborate on that. It gets worse, because of all of that, people can't tell what's real anymore. And it's happening right now in real time with this reflecting pool with the president. I'll explain. Let me explain. Here's what how I view what is really going on. He screwed up. He hired his friend on a big money-making contract to coat this reflecting pool with a liner. And I've been looking into it more. And it's really the stuff they're using is this like rhino coating, which is a version of like they put on a truck bed liner. That's what they were, and they sprayed it on instead of rolling it. They didn't properly prepare the surface. So it's peeling. All that stuff aside, but the important thing that I'm going to convey to you here is he's embarrassed. This is a political liability for him. So he's looking for a scapegoat, an excuse. So he's blaming protesters because he had some social media guys, one in particular, who started the narrative rolling, and it got traction online where he's saying it was sabotage, it's vandalism. And they made fun of that on, the late night shows, saying, come on, it's another conspiracy theory, which it is. But then the conspiracy theory gets traction because the president, using the bully pulpit and his personality, the platform that he has, he starts to say it and reinforce this idea that it's some sort of vandalism. And he's saying that it's because somebody with a knife or a box cutter cut the lining in first 150 feet, 300 feet, whatever. So the point that I'm making is this is all crap. The liner is peeling off the thing. The algae is growing because experts told
warned them even beforehand that if they went from the light gray, almost white bottom, which reflects light, to the blue bottom, which absorbs more heat, you're going to get more algae. So that's a contributing factor. The point is he's just lying about the whole thing, but he's so powerful because he has such a big social media platform, and because he's got the bully pulpit where anything he says gets reported and amplified around the world, for crying out loud. And then
Because he's the president. Yeah.
And then it gets repeated, echoed over and over again. So you get the frequency, which is like an advertising technique, through all the social media influencers who then make it real and give it legitimacy, whether it's the independent guys or Fox News, which Sean Hannity's on there this week talking about this as though it's like a real thing. And then it escalates to the point where people are being arrested for vandalism when they didn't vandalize anything. They're picking chunks of the coating out of the water. And more than that, what I'm seeing today is that people are playing out this, Ian, it's like, it is like old Rome. Okay. It is the fall of the Roman Empire, where Caesar is literally going mad with his own power, where he thinks he can create his own reality because he can. If you saw the movie Caligula, where they're pretending to go to Britain, like in a room with a fake boat, and he's thinking that it's real. It's like this today. They're putting up fencing now around the reflecting pool. It's all theater to protect it from the vandals. So you've got all these people playing roles in this charade, this play. It's like a fake thing, but it's becoming reality for people because the social media is amplifying it all. It's not real, but it's real now. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, well,
Are we witnessing
you got it right. And I will also just point out a little something, and then another analogy. Basically, it's a caricatures of what happened in 1933 when you got the Reichstag fire. Basically, Trump is creating a water Reichstag instead of a fire.
That's a false flag. This goes way beyond that. This is Duginism. This is the philosophy. This is the part of the strategy behind challenging people's realities when you're trying to destabilize a country. I swear to God, he's doing this stuff because he's trying to destabilize his own country. This isn't good for people. This isn't, as I would say, in the public interest, which is what standard is for me in conveying information. He's lying on purpose to protect his own butt, to save his own butt at the expense of not just the people who are being arrested, but the entire country, the world, our own sanity. He's gone crazy. For him, I think it even becomes real. The lies he's telling and repeating are becoming real in the crazy Caesar's mind. And we're
I think
all
there's
being driven nuts.
another way to look at this too. So I punish myself almost every day, and I watch The View. I've watched it for on and off for like 25 years because that's what they prove to me every day, what I don't want to be.
Yeah.
They are argumentative. They talk over each other.
Yeah.
They're just unkind, and they only see things through their scope.
Sure.
So I love it when other people come on there. JD Vance was on there. They had a couple of conservatives. Cheryl Wood was on there last week. I love that. And so what they were showing is the guy who was in charge of doing the reflection pool. Mm-hmm. Here's all the women on The View making fun of this guy's size and his demeanor, calling him all of these derogatory names. And I'm thinking, hey, aren't these the ladies that hold people accountable for don't judge a person by their weight, don't judge a person by their, economic state, all of this. And you have my dad calls them cows, the cows on The View. You have all these women who they are absolutely extreme leftists, and I actually kind of like listening to them because I hear what's going on in the world, and I believe I'm a centrist person. I might lean more to the right now because the majority of my friends are so far left, I can't even see them anymore. But I think it's just so interesting that then you have the other side of this. So Fox News is telling this narrative, and then you have ABC and NBC on the other side of the slate saying, look at this chunky man, look at him smoking, look at him this, he's in this picture with this young pretty girl. So they're making all these derogatory statements of the man who's supposed to be doing this, repair on this reflection pool. And I'm just like, is that really the story of the day of what this guy is wearing, what he looks like, and the cigar he's smoking?
Yeah, you get the extremes on both sides now, and that's the problem. We've just got too much extremism and not enough reality and truth. It's just.
Yeah, I think Angie, you brought up at the beginning of your when you first came on, I think your idea of towards being gathering people in your local community, working local, thinking local, creating something of value, creating something constructive that would be a benefit to society. And Rick, you and Ian, I think what made me think of something also was whether it's foreign people with tremendous foreign influence, i.e., Russia or here in the West, again, same kind of so-called power. Well, it is power and control, influence. Are we witnessing in real time? My question: are we witnessing in real time the collapse of Western society or collapse of people worldwide because of this, the power of this of the internet or of social media or everything in between or included? It's a big world. There's a lot of big movements technologically going on that is impacting us to a point where I think what was pointed out to me really clear before is that, go by facts, go by reality, what's going on in your local community, and make up your own mind, and be careful what you listen to and who you watch, or to influence one's way of looking at the world. I guess that's what I'm gathering from you guys so far. Oh, Jesus.
They used to tell us
Right.
that, look around and see who your circle of influence is. So
Yep.
whoever your 9 people are you hang around with, that's essentially who you
Real
are.
humans.
I think it's no different with your whatever your. I shouldn't say that now that I just admitted I watch The View every day, but I honestly
okay.
watch The View
I
because
understand.
it's so far from what my
Yeah.
opinion is that I believe it straightens me out in a lot of ways because I might
Yeah.
veer to the right more. And I jokingly, all my really right-leaning friends say, like, you abuse yourself every day. And I'm like, yeah, I do.
No, I
have-
respect your
I have
openness.
the-
I respect your openness. I respect
Yeah,
your
well,
willingness
I'll
to
just say
listen.
quickly what you both have actually described, and Sharon, mostly what you have described is what Peter Thiel's philosopher's teacher and mentor René Girard did actually taught of it, to him, is basically through that technology and what we have in social media is the power of the mimetic theory, which is the cycle of violence being imitate basically, or by the scapegoating and all that is being kind of accelerated by the mimic power, if you will. So basically, it's the more you see it, the more you normalize it, and the more people seems entitled in doing it. And basically, it's, I would say, entitling what you call narcissism in a global scale.
So, Angie, do you see, any converging issues here between this thing in Montreal that happened yesterday and what happened out in Tumbler Ridge?
Ugh. I think the only thing that is connected is how much it divides us, honestly. Like, and I'm not saying these are planted by any stretch of the means. I'm not saying that, but to kind of describe what happened to me with the large birds from Africa in the interior of BC, I did not know that there was such a hate on for the right from the left and vice versa until I got mixed up in all of this last fall. It's been going on since the convoy. I'm not a supporter of the convoy. I don't poo-poo the convoy. I have friends who absolutely support it. I have friends who don't. I like I think whatever you're passionate about is awesome. What my concern is how easily influencers and our legacy media jump on to tell their version of what they think is going on. And that's where we are losing it. And, I think all of us here are of the age where the news used to be a really big deal. Like, we gathered around, we had dinner, then we watched the 6 o'clock news, and we shut up and we watched it with our parents, right? Even to this day, if I'm at my parents, we watch the news together. That's just what happens. And I think, anyone who is maybe 55 plus still kind of listens to the news. They might have their own beliefs, but there's so much that's come out over the last, 10 to 15 years that's shown us what potentially could have been the cover up. How did Marilyn Monroe die? JFK, Malcolm X, all of these. We don't know what happened. We now know how the military in the United States used to drop fake newspapers in other countries. You know what I mean? So when we all sat around and watched the news, whether it was Harvey Cronkite or, whoever in BC, Tony Parsons, we sat around and we watched those diligently. We listened to them. We believed them. We thought they were telling us, an objective truth. And I can remember when I first started in radio, CNN was like a pillar, an exemplary news service. It was like our CBC back in the day, not an opinion piece. They gave both sides of the story, or so we thought. Now, when any major thing happens that pushes the right to hate the left and vice versa, I think just everyone grabs onto that and they go at each other. And, people are victimized by it. People make money by it, and people feel that they're right. So if I'm saying anything is connected, I just think it's social media is connecting it all, and it's not making it better.
Yeah,
If
I
I
see a
may.
connection there between the two with social media and the influence of social media impacting in different ways, I think, or maybe ultimately the same way, because you get people triggered and conditioned to go out and commit these violent acts, maybe taking different paths online, but the result ends up being the same.
Pretty true. Actually, I agree on that. Actually, I was about to say that, well, NG did brought a good point, and I think that that's where there's a common point. It's where the influencer social media did actually kind of promote the whole thing in a way, if I can use that term. And also, there's another part in it that I would probably also draw a point where you have those ambiguous kind of rhetoric with those kind of story. The way that now it's being promoted or polarized, should I say, is kind of making us accept that we need sometimes to act in irrational way, which is actually false. And that's where we're going into a dangerous point, where actually back to the bread and circus point, and what can affirm to this is that basically people are normalized to look at the gladiator on the Colosseum, basically. So that's how I see it nowadays.
This is why Trump has been so successful as a politician. He understands that it's all theater. It's all fake. It's a movie. He's playing. It's all always about central casting. It's about exactly what you said, dragon, bread and circuses. That's why you had the UFC cage match on the White House lawn, which I would never want to see on the, on Parliament Hill. It just wouldn't fit. I think it's, unbecoming. It's not appropriate, but there it is, because that's where politics is at right now with especially in America. And that's a version of America. That's not America itself, but it's a part of it, a version of it. And it is a modern reflection, an echo, if you will, of the Roman Empire and
Yes, yeah.
Caesar and the gladiator games. And pretty soon I fear they may be feeding Christians to the lions, especially when he's feuding with the Pope. Like, I mean, we're literally not that far from
Yeah.
exactly that. So it's just a modern version of it, all of it.
Well, and what I find so intriguing too is that it's that might come out wrong, but those who need something aren't necessarily the people asking for it. It's kind of a group outside of that often is paid money to help the group. So rather than us giving money A to B, it's going A, C, B, right? So whether we just had this big thing here in BC where autism funding got completely dropped by the government. And it's a big freaking ordeal here. There's like some of the most challenging individuals, can be those with autism, and now there's no funding for it. And I understand why we call it trimming the fat when you're in a business and you need to restructure, but I don't want people to lose their resources because of it. Do I want some people to lose money and big contracts because they're sitting at the top of these? Absolutely. But I think there's better ways to do it. I think that a lot of the stuff that is severely politicized right now, there are people making money off it. And you can believe Elon with Doge or not. We know that we have things go sideways here. So for example, this whole block watch thing that I'm trying to get going here in the Okanagan, I found out the money goes to block parties instead of a block watch. So instead of having people pay attention, what they're doing is you can apply for a grant and you can have a barbecue and we'll supply some things. And I'm like, so I understand the process of trying to get the communities together, but we need to be assertive and paying attention and getting to know people. So I like, that's my concern is how many areas, and today with this big news of e-buses, like electric buses coming to Kelowna, they hired the most expensive organization to do the sound for it. And I'm like, all you need is a little Fender amp and speakers that cost $400, sticks out there. You don't need this whole production. You just don't. And I'm thinking, how many things like that are currently going on in the province? And all of us, I believe Canadians are struggling. We have, we're challenged with so many different things that are going on, whether it's inflation, whether it's, job security, AI is coming in, all of these things. We're scared because we're watching the news and we're, overwhelmed because we're watching social media. I think we're really at a place in time where we have to start making some decisions. And like I said, I just went through, I used to follow like The View on YouTube. I followed Tucker Carlson. I followed even some funny things like New Heights podcast. I went through and I removed them all today because I just don't want someone else telling me what to look at my phone for. And I think we all need to do a bit of an internal, check-in. What's working, what's not. Is it making me happy? Is it growing me as a person? Or is it making me money? Like, and if it's not doing any of those three things, you got to fire it.
I think that we're already way behind the curve in our conversation here tonight. We're talking about trying to deal with social media and the impact that's having on our society, on our lives, on even the lives of people who clearly have mental health issues to the point where they're committing acts of violence. But even in the last couple of weeks, we've seen, in Argentina, Javier Milei, the libertarian president there, he proposed this, they're calling it groundbreaking legislation, creating this whole new legal category for non-human corporations, because AI is creating agents that can represent you and or your company without your interaction. And so he's created this legal category, which then gives essentially rights to artificial intelligent agents, non-humans, and non-human corporations as entities. So they're going to end up with rights, which then, again, converges into this whole concept of even transhumanism and the integration of humans with AI and artificial girlfriends and replicants. And it's blurring the line between, biological life forms and artificial entities. And should we get jacked into the internet? This is how fast this is all moving along. And the thing that I find really interesting and disturbing at the same time is the people who are most opposed or concerned about this tend to be on the conservative right or the right side of the political spectrum, and especially within the, whatever you call it, the freedom movement or even the sovereign citizens movement, whatever, in Canada and the US. But they're the ones who have been cheering on people like Millet and that whole political movement. But they're the ones integrated most with Musk, who has been in there working with Trump. So the irony, I think, is lost on a lot of people. But the pace at which this is all happening, it's being fueled by the Trump administration, by the right wing, especially governments in Europe right now, even more so, I think, than people on the left. Everybody's moving toward it, but the fastest pace right now I'm seeing with leaders like Millet, who's definitely a Trump ally, which you would not have I would not have expected that even, a year or two, well, 2 years ago for sure. And certainly not during the pandemic, but a lot of this has been masked to us, hidden. He didn't campaign on this stuff, but this is where we're at. It's happening fast. And, you're talking about who needs money and who needs support from government, and jobs being displaced or disrupted or maybe even largely eliminated by AI. That's upon us. That's right around the corner. And they're talking about universal basic income, and people are opposed to it because on the conservative side, you're getting the standard rhetoric of you can't have any socialism, you can't have any handouts. But I'll tell you this, if everybody's jobs are eliminated because Elon Musk and the tech bros create technology where we've got basically robots doing all the work and human labor has been completely replaced or largely displaced, we'll have massive unemployment. And if we don't have some sort of a social safety net, we're all screwed.
Well, that's the techno-corporatocrat, basically, the techno-corporatocrat dystopia that I was predicting not so long ago. Speaking of prediction, I was kind of predicting probably in February that we're kind of, it's a question of when things gonna happen. And I mean, we got something kind of serious yesterday. So sorry, NG, I didn't want to cut you off, but I wanted at least to put that out there.
No, I can't remember what I was going to say. I think that we all knew that AI was coming. Oh, I know what I was going to say, Rick, is there's a whole other side that's very left, very creative, that are against AI as well. The musicians, as well as artists like painting, drawing, graphic artists. I met with a gal today, and her son is a graphic artist, and all of his community refused to use AI for anything. And I have to admit, when I started to use AI just to like write letters or maybe update my LinkedIn or whatever, what I found is I have a really hard time when I use it consistently to spell correctly. Now, I've always been an excellent speller. People ask me a word. Now I'm having, well, it could be perimenopause as well. But I find that when I use AI too much, it completely, like, repetition is key for anything, right?
I agree with you.
Oh,
actually,
yeah.
I use AI to help myself into my writings and learning back out, the journalistic narrative and all those kind of things, right? I mean, the style and methodology and all that. And I mean, sometimes, I try to write and ask an AI, like, how do you like what I just wrote? And they keep like taking me outside of my box and something like that. So I mean, and criticizing my work. So it's like, no, I need to work on my own and not use AI for that. So it's another curves, to be quite honest.
I find that AI, I use it a bit, and actually, I find I use it every day for various things to check myself. But it becomes it's a reflection of yourself. It will morph or mold to your way of thinking if you want it to.
Oh my gosh.
No, it's true.
But also I can tell you,
No,
I can
it's
tell
true.
you this, that I
Oh,
have
God.
people who ask it things and it's incorrect. So say, for example, I love camping. I have an RV. And so say I'm looking up something, say I'm looking for a new RV and it's saying, oh, you don't want to buy this kind because it has a poor like water line, and this kind the roof was horrible. So what's happened is 10 people write down that 50,000 of these have been sold. 10 people write down that the water fittings don't fit well. So now we have everyone and their dog claiming that these RVs are horrible for their water fittings, which is just not the case. What it does is it grabs those 10 people's stories and it makes it the only thing they can see. And so that's one thing where there was something else that happened locally too recently. I can't remember what the heck it was. And you just knew it was incorrect. I don't know if you saw, also too, it was saying that Trump was a different height that he was recently, because someone went in and they were updating, I don't know if it was Wikipedia or something every day, so it was making him look smaller. And so you just have to be conscious with that too, to know that what it's doing is it's grabbing whatever is easy and fast, and it's showing you only this, but there's,
No, look, there's the video.
400 or
I have it up there
45,000
of them
more.
putting the fencing up around the reflecting pool, which, in my opinion, this is political theater. It's you're dealing with a problem that they've created in the people's minds as much as anything else. Anyway, that aside, I think I can outsmart AI.
How?
Oh, I do sometime too.
By
In
not
fact,
using
I'm
it?
going to try to do it here on the program tonight before we log off.
Oh,
In other words, anything by AI cannot be trusted either. Okay.
No,
No, not at all. Not at
as
all.
much as they think AI is like more intelligent than us, I think I can show you tonight that
Oh, thank you.
if you have a creative mind, you can
Oh.
outwit. I'm going to outwit Grok.
So AI won't supplant my brain.
just one thing quick. You know,
won't
AI
supplant me as a human
is
being.
probably when you have a historical kind of mind and you love your history, but you're not sure of it when you want to write about something and you want to be sure of a date of something back in history. Ask AI. They're gonna tell you what date was that part of history that you want to refer to.
Well,
Rick, if you want to look up another lovely place where they're putting up fencing, the city of Kelowna just put up a bunch of fencing downtown
oh
to
yeah.
try to not have the homeless population loiter in some of the back alleys. So instead of arresting them for loitering, because it's against the law, and trust me, I've worked with the homeless population for 6 years now,
Yeah.
instead of giving them fines, red zoning the area, they're putting up a fence, which costs how many thousands of dollars? How many times are they going to break it? That's legit what they just did 2 weeks ago in downtown Kelowna.
So it's not helping them. They're
I
just
can argue
telling them
probably
to
one
stay
thing
away.
though. We have kind of same problematic in Montreal, and I will tell you that one of the reason why they will probably force people not to go somewhere by erecting fences and whatnot is because how can you find someone that has no place and no money to pay the fine? So that ain't gonna happen. So in a
We have
way,
what's called, we call it the kangaroo court here. So you go in, you end up getting, you have to go pick up garbage, you have to go work at the SPCA or whatever. So I actually have that here. So in my opinion, as a person who's worked alongside the unhoused population for 6 years, they should force them to do community service. It should be, and we have a number of agencies that they can go out and do it with. So
Yeah,
I completely disagree. We need to hold people accountable, because what's happening is some of these areas are just going haywire. And also too, we need to close business on the homeless population, because like I said before, there's some people sitting at the top of some of these organizations making a ton of money.
Yeah.
And we have not supported or helped or end the problem. We've housed a certain amount of people, and then the only way we house more people is if those people pass away or if they get kicked out of the building.
Oh, nice.
Do you have
We're not-
many of these
not helping them.
tent cities in your community there?
Oh yeah, we have a couple now. So what happened is they moved the Ministry of Social Services, Social Development. They moved it from one area of town to the other. So we had kind of a tent city downtown. And then what happened is a local drug gang moved in and kind of ran that. So what they did is they fenced it off, funny enough. So you have to show who you are. You have to prove each time you go in and out of the tent city. So it's 24-hour security now. There's fencing all the way up. And now because we have the CFL and the WHL just had their finals here, they went and put up this fencing all the way down the tent city. So you can now ride your bike and you don't have to see the tent city because there's this wall there. But what's happened is now they only allow a certain amount of people in tent city. And so then they're kind of scattered all over again. So they, for a couple years, they kind of had a center area, but with this hot weather too, the majority of people don't like to be indoors in the shelter when it's hot. They like to be outside by a creek or camping or whatever. So it's gotten a bit worse over the last little bit.
Yeah, I'm not finding the anything on X here about the fencing thing in Kelowna. I'm probably not putting in the right keywords, but anyway. Well, I'm going to go around the horn here and just get you guys to give us some final thoughts on the Montreal shooting issue and where we're at tonight. Who wants to go first? Ian, why don't you go?
Okay, well, I'll go first. So, Langbridge University did actually today posted a apology and a statement about the shooter because he was part of the university. So there's that, and I mean, that's a beautiful gist from them. And on the other case, I will say, well, guys, don't eat anything that you see online. Be careful, because in other case, you might get yourself into a rabbit hole that might get you into a lot of trouble. So, well, stay open mind and don't listen to that little shadow deep inside that tell you bad things. Just stay home and relax.
Okay, Sharon.
Yeah, I think what Angie, when you were talking about the block watch, and it may tie into this young man who, if there had been some type of a stronger community connection or relationship around him, that could have probably would have helped a lot. You seem to be, I think Ricky mentioned this earlier in the show, that it's almost like not a cry for help, but just an appeal for, it sounded like anyway, that he was struggling and wasn't sure how best to alleviate his pain. And the other thing that leapt out at me too was at one time when we all gathered for the news, it was almost like a disruption in a long pattern where at a certain time of the day we all gathered to watch, quote, the news. And when social media came on board, or when the internet was more available to the public, it kind of blew that out of the water and disrupted it completely. The pattern was gone. A familiar pattern was gone with, as far as, family or social cohesion at a certain time of day. And what almost ached my heart is almost a fear kind of went through me when Rick was talking about the latest bill or proposal by the Argentinian president about AI being an individual agent or an individual who has rights. And I just felt this real weird feeling come across me that was telling me,
because of molding the mind,
yeah, and
which
yeah.
was concerning to you, and I understand you. But it's
So-
okay. I'm going to give you hope in a minute. I think. I think I've got an idea.
Yeah, I almost felt like I was in shock for a minute. I thought I was going to start hysterically laughing when you were telling me that this was serious. This was no joke. This was really happening.
Mhm.
But as a whole, I really appreciate this conversation. It's amazing in some ways how much we progressed, and in some ways how much we're devolving. And yeah, if someone, thank you, Rick, for saying, it's going to be okay. So
Mhm.
thank you, guys.
All right,
I think
Angie.
just to add to what she was saying there, one thing that we used to do when we read the news is we also had a kicker store, and I'm assuming that's what you're going to end with, Rick. And so I won't really talk about that because I'm assuming that's what you're going to do.
Hmm.
But that's just to lighten up everything at the end is a kicker story.
Yep.
And I think that one thing that we each can do is connect to our neighbors, even the grumpy old jerk that lives next door, and go out and try to have conversations. And if you're open to it and you have a challenge with crime, I challenge everyone to look into their Block Watch program. We actually have we're going to have an app that comes out on the 28th here that's going to support and help us with businesses and with Block Watch. So say, for example, I'm going for a bike ride downtown every day. Say someone, and I checked on a person who's unhoused today. And so if someone's there, someone else can go, hey, I don't want to deal with this person. Can someone else, or hey, there's needles or there's harm reduction here. Can someone pick it up? I'm not afraid of that, right? Not everyone needs to be. But if we all can play our part, and we go back to helping each other, I think I swear that's community helps us heal. It doesn't matter if it's a substance use disorder, if it's a family tragedy, even if there's infidelity in the home, like you name it, there's so many things that we need our community for. Number one, for health reasons. Number two, when we're starting to have struggles with mental health or addiction, it's not the time when you shut out your friends. It's really when you need to open it up and say, hey, you know what? We're having some struggles. I don't know what to do. Randomly, I was with a friend today, and this woman called and she wanted help with her daughter because she wants to, help her. She's living outside and stuff. And we're laughing. We're like, divine timing, because I'm sitting right here. Let's figure out some things to do. But I think, we all know an expert in the area that we're having a family challenges. So I think we all just have to utilize our resources and go back to that community and start helping each other.
Yeah, we need one another. That's beautiful. Thanks, Angie.
We do indeed, which actually brings me to what I think I'm going to do here with Grok, because we've been talking about people needing people, community, right? Yeah. And there's somebody who makes me better in our community, and that's our friend Stoic Teacher, because Stoic Teacher sends me messages and challenges me on many things that makes me think. And I've been thinking a lot about, as a result, quantum physics, the expansion of the universe, the concepts of time and space, reality, relationships. And it ties into everything we've just been talking about right here, right now. And AI and molding AI's mind. I think I'm smarter than AI. And so tonight, right now, I'm going to ask you guys, what's the answer to 1 + 1?
2.
Yeah, that's 2.
Mm-hmm. Angie? What's 1 + 1?
Angie?
I don't know if she's still there. Maybe she's afraid and ran away.
I said, as far as I know, it's 2, unless something else has changed since I've been out of school.
Okay, let's ask Grok. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to prove to you that it's not.
Oh, God.
Plus
I love where
1
that's going, guys.
equals what? Take your best shot, Grok. 1 + 1 = 2. Classic math. No tricks here. Sir Grok. Hang on. Oh, my stupid. I'm typing off to the side, so I keep making mistakes. My dude. No, it don't. You is wrong. He says, ha. All right, my dude, you got me, but not 1 + 1 still = 2. That's been locked in since forever. Piano axioms, basic counting, even your fingers agree. You trying to hit me with some quantum supersupposition or base -1 nonsense? Spill the tea. What's your math? 1 + 1 = infinity. My dude. Haha, my dude, 1 + 1 is wild creativity, but that ain't math. That's vibes. 1 + 1 = 2. Infinity ain't a number. You can just add 2 like that. It's more like a concept that laughs at regular arithmetic. You throw 1 + 1 at it and it still stays 2. Unless we, in some alternate universe where addition is broken, you got proof? Yeah, my man. 1 human plus 1 human equals. Oops. Oh, for crying out loud, Rick. You suck. Come back here. Infinity, my dude. Like in forever. Entangled.
No. That's a concept that's
yeah.
plausible.
Aha,
And
my
if you
dude, now we're
add,
talking 1 human plus 1 human equals infinity. When it's that real entanglement, not the math kind, the forever kind. 2 hearts lock in and suddenly it's endless possibilities. Laughter that don't stop. Memories stacking forever. Love multiplying into whole galaxies. Entangled souls like 2 photons. Entangled souls vibing across time like quantum bullshit, but way more beautiful. Oh, yeah. You out here dropping poetry on me? So tell me, you got that special 1 human making your math go infinite, or we just philosophize and spill it? Well, Sir Grok. Oh, for crying out loud, Rick, you type like shit.
I think the best part of this, Rick, is your voice sounding like you're smoking pot from the 1960s with all this.
I already been down that path, my man. I got me 2 kidlets growed up and left the nest. But I is still forever, my dude.
and see, a
My
woman,
dude, I hear you loud and clear. You done walked the full circle. 1 human plus 1 human equals 2 kidlets who flew the nest, but that forever energy. It didn't clock out when they left. You still out here carrying that infinite entanglement in your chest, the kind that don't expire just because the chapter changed. Some folks get empty nest and feel done. You still vibing. Oh, yeah. Like the math still works. That's beautiful, man. Real to recognize real. So what's the vibe now? Are you out here open to finding another human to make a new infinity with? Or you're just chilling in your own forever glow, king of the empty nest? Either way, I'm proud of you for still holding that spark. Drop more if you feel like it. I'm locked in. That'll do. That'll do.
Rick, that's the law of human nature. because one woman and one man makes a baby, that's 3, that's not 2. So then it comes to 4 and then becomes grandpa. So you become like multiple exponentially yourself.
It's the circle of life, my man. Dragon, my man, it's the circle of life. That'll do, Grok, my man. Thank you, my super dude.
Applause, applause.
But I just proved 1 + 1 equals
Insanity.
And there's your
Yeah.
kicker story for the night from Maverick News.
And with that,
Right on.
everybody, I will see you back here tomorrow night. And Angie, thank you for calling in. And Sharon, thank you for calling in. And Dragon, thank you
My
for calling
pleasure.
in.
Thank you.
And you know what, Angie? We need a whole lot more of that community watch stuff and community spirit and a whole lot more of 1 + 1. Love you
I
guys.
agree.
See y'all
Amen.
back here. 7 p.m. Eastern on the
Flip side.
Good side.
You Got It.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, 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 blah.
Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, 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 blah.
Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah.
Maverick News. No blah, blah, blah.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.